Hi, good evening. Welcome along to the transfer show. Yep, we're back. The early summer window is open and the clubs have 8 more days, that's all, to get their business done. Well, Chelsea and Manchester City are looking to get deals over the line with an eye on the Club World Cup. But remember, everyone is allowed to make signings up until 7 p.m. on June the 10th. Well, Liverpool want to strengthen whilst they're on top. And the champions have the hottest property in the Bundesliga in their sights. We've got the very latest on their pursuit of Florian Wirtz. Manchester United have a colossal rebuild ahead of them. Could selling their captain be part of the plan? Stand by to hear where things stand on Bruno Fernandes and many more facing a United exit. And at 7 o'clock tonight in our 3-hour show, we'll take a deep dive into the top stories. This mini window could see Cristiano Ronaldo end up at the Club World Cup. How and with whom? We'll explain later. Well, it's big time, which means we got the big guns out. Kaveh Solokol and Darmesh Chef are with us. I nearly forgot your name then, Dom. Sorry about that. All right. No, he is a big gun. Right, I want to start with Liam Delap, Kaveh. This one is supposed to be close, but it's not happened. Why not? What's going on?
Well, look, it's very close. He's just finishing off his medical today. Once that is done, we expect Chelsea to announce that they've signed him. We were told last Thursday that everything was basically agreed. I think what Chelsea are trying to do is make sure that the deal is done in time for him to play for them in the Club World Cup. Their first game is in 2 weeks today in Atlanta against Los Angeles FC. They only qualified for the Club World Cup just a couple of days ago. In that game, if Liam Delap features in it, he'll be coming up against former Chelsea player Olivier Giroud, and also the LAFC goalkeeper is Hugo Lloris. But look, we expect it to be announced imminently that he is a Chelsea player.
OK, now,
just
go on.
Kaveh mentioned there that they want him available for the Club World Cup. That actually is bad news for Lee Carsley, because the England under-21 Euros are this summer, and he will actually be given precedence to play in the Club World Cup over that international tournament. That's because the FIFA calendar doesn't allow for the precedence to be on international tournaments if it's a junior tournament. And the FIFA international window, I think there are international fixtures for the senior players, runs until June the 10th, and June the 11th, they're free to go back to their clubs. So effectively, he can play in the FIFA Club World Cup ahead of the under-21 Euros. OK, all right, yeah, that is a blow for England 21s.
Kaveh, going back to Chelsea and possible signings, you told us a long while ago that they were going to get busy. They wanted wide players. Is this one? Jamie Gittins from Borussia Dortmund.
Yeah, no, what we said previously is that Jamie Gittins is one of the players on their list of targets, along with other players, for instance, like Alejandro Garnacho at Manchester United, Nico Williams as well. We believe they've got a target list of around 8 or 9 players in that position that they are looking at. And the development was that this morning, Mike McGrath in the Daily Telegraph said that he believed that Chelsea had actually now entered into talks with Borussia Dortmund about signing Gittins. I think the player is valued at least £50 million by Borussia Dortmund. We're being told that no offer has been made for him. But again, it would not be a surprise if he ended up being a Chelsea player because of his profile. He's 20 years old. I think he started off at Reading. Then he spent a bit of time at the Chelsea Academy. Then he went to Manchester City. We've seen Chelsea sign players before who've spent a bit of time at Manchester City's academy, and he's only 20 years old, and I think he would fit into Chelsea's wage structure.
Darmesh, Kaveh just mentioned Garnacho in that. He was in the mix for Chelsea. What do you know about him?
Yeah, I mean, Chelsea tried to sign him in January. I think Napoli tried to sign him in January as well. It's our understanding that both of those clubs are still interested in Alejandro Garnacho. As yet, we don't think Manchester United have received any formal offers for Garnacho, but it's understood that they would consider suitable bids. He hasn't enamoured himself too much with the Manchester United management with some of his social media posts, particularly after that post-season tour of Asia, where he was kind of relieved that the tour was all over. Not the best kind of messaging if you're an employee of that football club. So there's a lot of talk now that Manchester United have thought, right, he's a good player, but he can represent pure profit for us with regard to profit and sustainability rules. They can get quite a good fee for him, and it looks like they would be willing to allow him to leave in this summer's transfer window.
Let's talk about a player who could get a massive fee for them if they're going to allow him to leave. The skipper, Bruno Fernandes. Could this happen?
It could. It could. It's a really delicate situation from what I'm hearing. I'm told now that Bruno Fernandes is now discussing with his family about whether he wants to go to Al Hilal and move to Saudi Arabia or remain at Manchester United. He's obviously their captain at Old Trafford. It's thought, though, it's going to be a really, really tough decision for him to make because 30 years old, it's life-changing money that he would be paid. I think Harvey was mentioning before, is it something like £700,000 a week? I mean, that is absolutely crazy, crazy money. And as far as Manchester United are concerned, the talk is that Al Hilal would be prepared to pay £100 million to sign Bruno Fernandes. This is a player who's going to be 31 in September. It should be said here, Manchester United do not want to sell Bruno Fernandes. Ruben Amorim, publicly at least, has said we want him to stay. And when I speak to Bruno Fernandes, the impression I'm getting is that he does want to stay. Now, it should also be noted there's been no offer officially from Al Hilal. All we're hearing is that this is what they'd be prepared to pay. So Manchester United don't have to make a decision at this stage. The only way that Manchester United, I think, would consider selling Bruno Fernandes is if Bruno Fernandes made it clear to them that he wanted to move, and then that would set the wheels turning for Al Hilal to come in with a formal offer. Up until that point, it's just, well, we'd be prepared to pay this. I'm talking to my family, and then I'm going to decide what I'm going to do. So it is a little bit of a knife edge at the moment, but Carve's been covering this story quite a bit in the last couple of weeks. They want to get it done as soon as possible because of
The
this.
Club World Cup, yeah.
FIFA
I mean,
Club
Al
World
Hilal,
£100 million, you've got to take it, surely. If you're rebuilding your club, which United are, they can do a lot with £100 million.
Before you, it'll be up to Bruno Fernandes still. Even if they offer £100 million, if Bruno Fernandes doesn't want to go, he's still under
No, I
contract until
appreciate that.
2027.
But for United, surely, who need to get players in and whatever, £100 million is going to help, isn't it?
I think it would be difficult for Manchester United to turn down that kind of money for a player who's going to be 31 soon. I know he's a very, very important player for Manchester United. He's an exceptional player. But we hear a lot about the supposed financial problems at Manchester United. You've got a situation where, unfortunately, a lot of people have lost their jobs. So against that backdrop, could Manchester United really turn down £100 million for Bruno Fernandes? Everything that we're hearing coming out of the club is that, yes, they would. He's not for sale. But the old cliche in football is, of course, that every player has his price. And I think that even if Bruno Fernandes didn't particularly want to go to Saudi Arabia, could we have a situation where some pressure was being put on him to leave, to balance the books?
Well, when Sir Jim Ratcliffe came in, he said everybody had their price, didn't he?
What we should also say here as well is £100 million, yes, you're saying it could be vital for Manchester United because they want to rebuild. But I think primarily, in an ideal scenario, they want to rebuild with Bruno Fernandes. Yes, he's 30 going on 31, but I mean, he had an absolutely incredible season considering Manchester United had such a poor season. He was a standout performer for them. There is that argument as well, like in the past, Manchester United have let big name players go, but the rest of the squad have stepped up and they've kind of come out of the shadow of that big player. But you could argue, have Manchester United got the kind of quality that they had back then to climb out of a key player's shadow. But this is definitely one to watch in the next few days because something's going to have to come to a head sooner rather than later.
Well, speaking of key players, well, he's possibly on the move, but another key player, Kevin De Bruyne, Darmesh, going to Napoli. We know that's going to happen. How soon?
It is looking pretty imminent now. Sky Italy are reporting that he's expected to sign a 2-year contract, a good contract length for a 33-year-old. And on top of that, there's an option for Napoli to extend that for a further year. So in all, potentially a 3-year contract for Kevin De Bruyne. I just wonder whether that came into his thinking when he was about to leave Manchester City, whether Manchester City offered him anything with regard to a contract, and if they did, whether it was going to be as long as 2 or 3 years. Because I know a lot of Manchester City fans are pretty disappointed that someone of his quality is leaving, given his age, because he still performed when he did play last season really, really well. Look, it's not completely done yet. Paperwork is still being finalised. It's going to get to the medical stage, but it is, of course, the international window. He'll go with Belgium and play their internationals with Belgium, and then it's thought when he comes back, he'll complete his medical and that move will be done.
All right, so we think that's going to happen. What about players coming in? City have been playing centre-backs at left-back. There's news of a proper left-back coming in, Carve.
Yeah, they want to sign a left-back. We heard from the chairman last week saying that they want to move quickly in the transfer market and they want to sign Rayan Ait-Nouri from Wolves. Now, he's got 2 years left on his contract at Molineux. He's valued at least £50 million. Wolves were planning on offering him a new deal, but I think if Manchester City come in for him, then it's very difficult for the player to turn down that move. Having said that, I think Manchester City will have to pay a big price for him because he's been in exceptional form for Wolves over the past 4 seasons, and Wolves are really progressing and developing under Vitor Pereira. So I don't think they will just roll over and let him leave and move to City on their terms or the players' terms.
They've let Cunha go, Darmesh. Ait-Nouri, I mean, what sort of club are Wolves? Are they a selling club or are they a club with ambition?
I think a bit of both, because they bought in these players in the first place, and there's probably an acceptance that a club like Wolves, if they do perform for Wolves and they're not going to get European football, which they haven't managed to get, then these players are going to have ambitions to be playing at a higher level, particularly in European football. I know Matheus Cunha is kind of an exception in a way because Manchester United don't have European football, but that I think United were quite impressed with his desire to want to come to United regardless of whether they had Champions League football, let alone European football. So, yes, I can see where you're coming from. They seem to be selling some of their key players, but they've done that before and they've rebuilt as well. It's going to be an important summer for him because as long as he's given that money that they're generating from the likes of Cunha and Ait-Nouri, then I'm sure they'll be trusting Vitor Pereira, given what he's done in the second half of last season, to rebuild again and go again with Wolves.
All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk the champions, Liverpool, and their summer transfer plans. How close are they to getting the man who's going to cost them over £100 million? That and more to come. See you in a moment in the Transfer Show. This is the Transfer Show. Mini window, big implications, big money. Speaking of which, Carve, Florian Wirtz to Liverpool. Where are we with this one?
Well, look, the important thing is that the player wants to move to Liverpool. They are the only club he wants to sign for. Liverpool are still locked in talks with Bayer Leverkusen about trying to agree a deal. Now, I don't think there is really a sense that the clock is ticking for this one because Liverpool are not playing in the Club World Cup, so they're not under time pressure to get this deal done. The window's open for another, 2.5 months. And the player himself, at the moment, he's with the Germany squad. They're playing Nations League semi-final on Wednesday night in Munich against Portugal. So his mind is on international duty. But of course, Leverkusen are talking to Liverpool, and Leverkusen know that the player is going to leave and they know that he only wants to go to Liverpool, and they're quite happy to do business with Liverpool because they didn't want to do business with Bayern Munich. They didn't want him going to their big German rival. So I think it's just a matter of time before a deal is agreed. Obviously, it's very complicated because it may well be a British record transfer. It'll certainly be a Liverpool record transfer. And the latest information we have is that I think Bayer Leverkusen would accept a total package that valued the player at around £120 million. I know up until now we've been saying that he's valued at 150 million euros, which is 126 million pounds. But I think around 120 million pounds could get the deal done.
They're no stranger actually to trying to break the British transfer record, because they actually agreed a British transfer record with Brighton for Moises Caicedo. And that's before Moises Caicedo then chose Chelsea. So clearly, in the last few seasons, Liverpool have had the ambition to spend the money. I know some people say, well, you know, they've been quite cute in the market, and yes, they have. They've got some fantastic signings for some great money, and including selling players for really good money as well. But they've always put themselves in a position to spend big as well.
Let's talk about selling players then for Liverpool. Luis Diaz, is he on his way out?
Well, look, he's got 2 years left on his contract. His representatives are due to have contract extension talks with Liverpool. Long-term interest in the player from Barcelona, also clubs in Saudi Arabia. Sky Germany reporting today that he is now one of Barcelona's main targets this summer, and they believe that initial talks have been held about the player moving to Barcelona. And as we've been reporting, they say there's strong interest in him from the SPL. So I think a decision for Liverpool to make. Do they offer him a new contract or do they look at it and say he's got 2 years left? Barcelona want him, clubs in Saudi Arabia want him. We're making some changes to our squad. Is now the time to cash in on the player? Having said that, though, he had a very good season and scored a lot of goals, and he's had an exceptional record at Liverpool since he's moved there. I think he's just about won every trophy there is since he moved from Porto for £37 million 3.5 years ago. OK,
so he could be on the way out, as could goalkeeper Quiveen Kelleher. What's the news on that potential move to Brentford?
Yeah, you remember, people forget last summer, even though Liverpool were pretty quiet in the transfer window, Federico Chiesa came in. They actually did sign a goalkeeper in Georgi Mamadishvili from Valencia, but they sent him back on loan for the season because they had Alisson and Kelleher. Now that Mamadishvili will be joining Liverpool after that return to Valencia for the last season, Kelleher now, I mean, he played a big part during the season, didn't he? He wants to be a number one in his own right, which he knows he's not going to get with those two goalkeepers at Anfield. He's on the verge of joining Brentford. We think the fee is around £12.5 million, which is guaranteed. With the performance-related add-ons, that could go up to £18 million. So why is he going to Brentford? Because Brentford have got a goalkeeper already in Mark Flecken. Well, Mark Flecken is on the verge of moving as well. Sky Germany have been reporting he was expected to have a medical today with Bayer Leverkusen, Erik ten Hag's Bayer Leverkusen. And we think the fee for Flecken is around £11 million. 31 years old. He'll sign a contract until 2028.
OK, I just want to go back to the Kelleher and Diaz leaving Liverpool. They always say that from a position of strength, you strengthen. Are Liverpool possibly weakening? Because those are two, Dharma said it, Kelleher played a key part and Diaz had a great season. Are they actually weakening what was a great squad?
No, I don't think so. I think they've got Mamadashvili coming in. He's an exceptional goalkeeper, Georgia's number one. They've got Jeremy Frimpong coming in as well, somebody who can play anywhere along the right-hand side of their team. Florian Wirtz will be coming in as well. Darwin Núñez could be leaving. They could sign another forward. I think they're actually strengthening their squad. I think it would be pretty easy for Liverpool to rest on their laurels and think we won the title pretty easily last season, we can do it again next season. But remember, they didn't really spend that much money last summer. They signed Chiesa and Mamadashvili, and that was it. So I think there's an acceptance now that Arne Slot has had a season at Anfield, an exceptional season, He's had a look at the squad. Now he can begin to stamp his authority on that squad, not his authority, his mark, by getting in the kind of players that he wants to increase competition for places and to have more tactical flexibility as well.
We've spoken about Manchester United. I want to go back to Manchester United, though. You've got a bit of news on Anthony. What have you got?
Yeah, so we know he had a really successful spell at Real Betis in the second half of last season. Now, what our understanding is, he's back at Manchester United now because that loan spell is over, but lines of communication between Manchester United and Real Betis remain open because Real Betis would desperately want to bring him back given how he performed. He will return as it stands, but United are expecting offers for Anthony because of the way he did perform. And I think the preference for them would be to do a permanent deal. And if you go back to January, if they tried to do a permanent deal for Anthony in January, I don't know how much money they would have got. So it was almost a calculated risk by sending him out on a straight loan, see how he performed. They probably underestimated how he was going to perform at Real Betis because he performed so well, and it's only done one thing. It's probably raised his value, and probably raised his value to the extent where Real Betis are going to struggle to actually meet that figure that Manchester United would want. What can't be ruled out either is Anthony, however outlandish this may sound, to be reintegrated into the Manchester United squad under Ruben Amorim. Because it should be remembered, if you look at what happened with Marcus Rashford and Anthony, both were sent out on loan. But both, their approaches were very different because Marcus Rashford was eliminated from the squad first team picture altogether. Whereas if you look at Anthony, if you look at every single squad that Ruben Amorim picked for every single one of his games, bar one, Anthony featured in every single one of those squads. Now, for him to do that, he must have seen something, but he couldn't give him enough first team action. I just wonder whether Ruben Amorim has seen how well he's played at Real Betis and thought maybe, just maybe, he could do a job at United, as outlandish as that may sound, as I said.
Isn't the point, though, that both Rashford and Anthony flourished because they were away from Manchester United?
Yes, but what I'm saying is that Ruben Amorim's approach to both players was very different. He said he effectively banished Rashford from the first team's picture altogether, whereas Anthony was involved in every single squad that he picked, bar one.
Yeah, OK, all right. We're going to take a break. We're going to get much more into this at 7 o'clock when the boys will be back. I'm back after the break with Sports Centre. But, as I say, 7 o'clock, transfer show, Kaveh and Damesh are back, and we're going to take a deep dive into all the top stories, which includes Cristiano Ronaldo, who could well be playing in the Club World Cup. But when I come back, the day's news away from the transfer market as Serena Wiegmann's European champions prepare to face the world champions. That and more to come. See you in a moment.